Primary ignition.
Welcome to Unlimited Power. My name is D-Rod, and here's my guide to updating your Spark of Rebellion starter deck with Star Wars Unlimited's newest set, Shadows of the Galaxy. Now, one of the reasons why I'm making a video like this is because I remember what it's like to get into a game, find starter decks at all my local game stores, but being unable to find any of the previous sets that work well with those starter decks. So today we're going to be focusing on how can you improve your Spark of Rebellion starter decks when you only have access to Shadows of the Galaxy cards. Just like last time, we're going to be focusing on decks that are a budget series and a master series. Our budget decks are going to be only using commons and uncommons that you can find within Shadows of the Galaxy, and our master ones are going to be focusing on the rares and legendaries that can really fill out the same themes we found within those starter decks. Let's go ahead and take a look at one right now. Let's take a look at upgrading the Luke Skywalker starter deck. Now, as a leader, Luke has the ability to spend one action, one resource to exhaust him, and give a shield token to a white aspect unit you played this phase. Okay, couple restrictions here. Similar to Vader, Luke needs to spend an action and a resource to do something he can only do once a phase. In order to do this, he has to see something happen. Vader is looking for black aspect villain cards to be played. Luke is looking for white hero aspect unit cards to be played. Luke has to see a unit because he needs to be able to put a shield on it. So that's where the restriction there is. This is going to mean you're going to be playing a little bit slower, and you're going to want to keep one resource available in order to use Luke's full potential here. Now, putting a shield on a unit means you're going to be able to extend the life that they have in whichever arena they're in. Remember, shields block a full instance of damage, no matter the amount. So this shouldn't cause your opponent to hopefully waste 2 cards on one of yours, whether it's 2 units swinging into one, an event and a unit, or 2 events. This is a great trade-off, and it's what you're looking for. This also means you're going to play off curve a little bit. What I mean by that, instead of paying 4 resources when you have only 4 resources for a 4 resource cost unit, you'd rather pay less than 4. If you can pay 3 to put out a unit that's weaker than a 4 cost unit, you're going to be able to put a shield on them. Putting a shield on them is going to be able to keep them in play longer, and you're going to be playing a little bit slower, but you are missing out on a unit that has essentially a little bit more capability. And that's okay. That's the way Luke is set up to work. He wants to play a little bit more of that mid-range control. Now, Luke can be deployed as an epic action when you have 6 or more resources, which usually happens as early as turn 5. He has 4 power and 7 health, and on attack you may give another unit a shield token, meaning Luke can shield everyone but himself, which is clear he's there to save his friends, as we see him in the Cloud City attire from Empire Strikes Back. Now, what is the starter deck set up to do? And we've already talked about the shields and what their function is. It's there to defer or defeat units by having them run into your Sentinel units or defeat them with certain types of events, or to slowly damage your opponents as you continue to hit them with some of your lower cost units over time. Some of the staples we're going to see in this deck are cards that I think are the foundation of what Luke is trying to do. One of those cards is going to be Leia Organa. She's a 2-cost unit that's a 2/2, and when played, you can either ready a resource or exhaust a unit. She's great at being a utility card for you for whatever situation occurs, but she's even more powerful when you can use this to exhaust a leader that comes into play when you just don't have the answer for them yet. With blue, you're always looking for certain type of defeat cards, but Leia can buy you the time that you need, which is great. Feels all on theme for her. Speaking of on theme, here's her partner, R2-D2. Right there from the opening scenes of New Hope, R2-D2 is a 1-cost unit that's a 1/4 rebel. When played and on attack, look at the top card of your deck, and you may put it on the bottom of your deck or leave it there. This is great knowledge that's going to keep you ahead in the game. You'll be able to find cards you really need for your next phase, or get rid of them and hope that you see something better rather than just take something you really don't want. A great distraction is the restored ARC 170. This is going to pull a lot of your opponent's attention because they can't leave a space unit with Restore 1 in play, especially if you shield this. Restored ARC can probably get you anywhere between 3 to 4 good attacks until your opponent takes the time to deal with it. That 3 or 4 is definitely with a shield, but that damage is going to add up, and that restore will as well. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the budget deck for Luke Skywalker. The budget deck was a little bit harder than it was in the first set because we lose a lot of that rebel theme going into Shadows of the Galaxy. A lot of our blue-white units we see are mostly Mandalorians and Underworld, where Luke's a lot of their units are usually Rebel or Trooper. So let's go and take a look at what cards are going to work to satisfy like this goal. How do we get there? What are we looking for this deck to continue to do? The goal of it is going to be to keep units in play using shield as events. Okay. Create a tempo of unit attacks. All right. Have a consistent attacking strategy. And to avoid taking large points of damage. Okay. Let's see what cards I'd recommend to do that. The first one's going to be is Rival's Fall. Want to avoid large points of damage? Use the 6 cost event to defeat a leader or any other big unit your opponent plays. That's it's just so good. Defeating a leader is going to be one of the biggest obstacles this deck can run into, especially when those leaders are someone like Vader when you're playing starter decks versus starter decks. So having this card in your back pocket just helps you deal with that, and then you can go on to continue to just attack and hopefully finish your opponent. Next is going to be Fell the Dragon, a 4 cost defeat event that can only defeat non-leaders with 5 or more power. This is great for some of those bigger units. Rival's Fall can take care of anything, but it doesn't mean you want to use it for just anything that comes out. Fell the Dragon is great for some of those bigger units. And it's lower cost, allowing you to play another card that phase if you need to, or use Luke's ability. Next is going to be Rose Tico, a card I'd recommend actually playing on curve. She's 4 cost and she comes into play as a 2/6 with the shielded ability. Shielded is important for Luke. Units that come into play with the shield already on them is going to allow you to speed up your tempo. You don't have to use Luke's action ability, so you can always just play them because they already have a shield. Now, you can always double shield these units, which is fine, especially when you have someone like Rose Tico on the field. Because Rose Tico's on attack ability says you can defeat a shield token on a friendly unit, and if you do, give it 2 experience tokens to that unit. An example: Rose attacks your opponent. She has a shield and she's a 2/6. Exchange this shield out for 2 experience tokens. You are now a 4/8, hitting your opponent for 4. There you go. This just pairs really well with a lot of things. My recommendation for you playing Rose, though, is don't put all your eggs in one basket. Allow the experience token to get spread around rather than trying to make her super strong. Next is going to be L337, a 2/2 that says when played, you may rescue a captured card, and if you don't, give a shield token to this unit. So it's not shielded, but it might as well be. You have the option to rescue cards or shield this unit when it comes into play, or you can rescue, use Luke's ability, and shield them. They also have the smuggle mechanic for 4, so if you need a card to just throw into your resource pile early on, L337 is great for that. Next one is a Village Protectors, a 3 cost unit that has Sentinels and Shielded. This is a great one to put 2 shields on because it will buy you some time, as your opponent will have to swing into it 3 times in order to get it off the board. Next, the Millennium Falcon, a 6 cost space unit that is a 5/5 with ambush. Now, it also has a smuggle mechanic, which is going to be the same cost of 6, but you lose the ambush ability there because you only get ambush if you play it from your hand. Falcon's pretty strong, and I think it just being able to take out one of your opponent's units when it comes into play is just going to be such a surprise for your opponent, and you can still shield it right after as long as it survives. Next is Concord Dawn Interceptors, probably one of the best Sentinel units we saw in Shadows of the Galaxy. It's a 3 cost 1/4 unit that says when defending, give it +2/+0. So it blocks at a 3, which is great. And the last card I'm recommending is Public Enemy, a 0 cost upgrade you put on your opponent's units that says when they're defeated or captured, give one of your units a shield. You need more of this shield engine with Luke. So Public Enemy just makes sense as you can swing into their units or they're going to swing into your Sentinels. So the strategy here is to keep your units in play using shields and events. Try your best to keep them out there and let your opponent waste time on them. You want to have consistent tempo of attacking, and like I said, so keep swinging into your opponent's base. Use Leia and the events to take care of big threats, and you can discontinue playing resources after 6. Since your highest cards cost 6, you really don't need to go further than that unless you're just wanting to play more cards. Then I'd recommend stopping at 8. Here you can see the whole deck put together. There's going to be a link in the description down below. You see some of the one-ofs we kept in there, some of the removal cards, those types of things. Luke Skywalker, or Han Solo, Falcon, Rivals Fall on the bottom there. Still keeping those same numbers with the Han Solo being a one of. Let's go and take a look at the Master Deck now. The goal of the Master Deck is to keep units in play using shields and events, to have consistent tempo for playing cards and attacking, and to use synergies to strengthen your units and increase the time on the board. The Master Deck is going to be pulling from rares and legendaries found within the set, as well as the starter. Same as last, we're still going to add Rivals Fall because it's just a strong removal piece. And next, we're going to add in our first legendary, Ray, a 5-cost ground unit that says, on attack, you may heal 2 damage from a unit. If it's a non-white hero aspect unit, give a shield token to it. Ray's going to be great at keeping a lot of your units alive a little bit longer. Yeah, I wish she could give a shield to most of your units. Unfortunately, when you pair her with Luke, you really don't want to be playing a lot of non-white aspect cards. But Ray's going to be able to keep units in play a little bit longer, and she hits pretty hard, and it's really good at the 5 cost. Next is the Razor's Crest. Right out of the starter set, it is a 3/4 space unit with Restore 2. When played, you can return an upgrade from your discard pile to your hand. I like Razor Crest. I think it's strong. I love the Restore 2 mechanic, and upgrades are going to be pretty important. We're still keeping cards like Luke's Lightsaber in the deck, so being able to pull that card out whenever you need it by playing this card, I think is going to be really important because you can be a little bit more frivolous with cards like the lightsaber, knowing that you can always get it back. Play it on your early cost units, hit hard, hit strong, let the unit die, play Razor Crest, and do it again. Grief Karga is going to help you find cards like that lightsaber because they are a 2-cost white aspect unit that searches the top 5 cards of your deck for an upgrade, reveal it, and draw it. Get those upgrades early, be aggressive, find the lightsabers, keep going. L337, we've already talked about here, coming in with the shield token and rescuing cards. Village Protectors with the Sentinel. Kira is a great one. At a 4 cost, Kira says, when played, look at your opponent's hand, then name a card. While Kira is still in play, each card with the name that each card named costs 3 or more for your opponents to play. So this is going to really give you a little bit more control of the situation. You see what your opponent is trying to set up to do. Maybe you see removal cards. Maybe you just see a big bad that they need 2 more turns to put out. Maybe this is later in the game and they have 2 cards left and you take a look at them and one of them wins it for them. Kira is going to help you stall them out. She will buy you time. Allow her to do that. This is going to be the difference of a lot of players from master to budget here, because it does take some knowledge of what your opponent is trying to do with their deck and what is going to be the best decision for you to remove at that time. Next is Concord Dawn Interceptors. We've already talked about this, and Public Enemy. Let's look at the Mandalorian, a 6-cost unit that I think is a great one to pair with Obi-Wan. Has Sentinel just like him, but this Sentinel unit hits for 5 and Obi-Wan hits for 4. The trade-off is lesser power, but when played, you may heal all damage from a unit that costs 2 or less and give 2 shield tokens to it. So go ahead and heal Grief Karga and shield him up, shield up L337, shield up your X-Wings, your restored ARCs, anything like that, giving them 2 shields, keeping them out and play longer. Also, Mandalorian just looks great. Here's going to be your strategy of your deck. Keep units in play using shields and events. Yes. Have consistent tempo of attacking. Yes. Force your opponent to swing into you. They need to deal with your units that have shields. They need to deal with your units with restore. Let them do that. Use Cure to prevent big units from coming into play early. Playing her on turn 4 is going to be great because you're going to be able to kind of see what your opponent has set up to do, allowing you to hopefully to have a great deploy of Luke in the next following turns with fewer obstacles. Be willing to lose lightsabers early. It is okay to throw it on R2-D2, swing, hit, and let them take R2-D2 out. Don't save them for Luke because you can always bring him back by either Razor Crest or by searching your deck with Grief Karga. Same thing with the bounties. See here the final list. We'll have a link down in the description below. You still see there's a couple of one-ofs like Chewbacca and Obi-Wan. We did remove Han Solo since we're playing the Mandalorian and Rey. Still giving you a little bit more of that late game aggression. But you can really set up your board here to have a steady attacks all the way through while still having some strong removal and some prizes for your opponent. That's my Luke starter deck upgrade from the Master and the Budget series. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this. If you're liking this type of content, let me know either in your comments and by subscribing. That's the kind of stuff I'm looking to see and what we're going to do next. 2 more starter decks to go for Shadows of the Galaxy, and then we'll start looking at some other stuff based on what everyone has to say. Thanks a lot. Enjoy this deck. Let me know what works, what doesn't, and may the Force be with you.